Hey y'all, I want to talk to you about the power of a single page. I was doing something this week that I didn't realize I was doing, and that was that I was following the advice of James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. This is an entrepreneurship book, basically, or really a book for anyone who wants to get better at forming habits that are good habits. You want to get better at something, you want to develop skills or hobbies or whatever. Atomic Habits is a great book for that, and it's really been adopted by a lot of entrepreneurs, and I feel like it's mentioned a lot in those circles. But I was doing something this week that was basically a complete reference to something that I learned while reading that book years ago. I probably read it 5, 6 years ago. It's been a while, um, but it is this, and I'm going to mess this up a little bit, but it's this idea of the 2 minute rule where you form small versions of the bigger habits you eventually want to have by just doing 2 minute chunks, like a 2 minute version of it. And so, this journal that I developed, this journal page, this very simple blank journal page that I developed to just kind of help me be more productive, turns out it's basically a great template for something like that for somebody like me who's trying to get back into composing. Okay, so we've got our Yamaha CFX piano pulled up here with the little 25 key Alesis Q25, which I'll probably use in a lot of these videos to just demonstrate what I'm doing. Um, but I have a single page of paper. This is actually the original music journal page that I developed, and it's great. This is perfectly fine. But I want to show you the sequence, how I developed from this to another version of it to another version of it until I basically arrived back at this design, but with page numbers. An interesting thing that I've done here, it's like it's almost too simple for me, but I'm really glad that I did it, and I'll tell you why. Like, some of these are really good things. Okay, so um, here's the blank page. After this, I developed this version, which is basically the dot grid, but I added some things to it. I thought, okay, there are these things I want to do every single day, and I want to make sure I get to them. So I eventually typed out all this stuff here, which, as you see, like, there's an oral skills section, there's a sight reading factory for piano, sight reading factory clef of the day, which I'll explain in a little bit. And then I have a to-do list item here. Write some music focusing on an instrument and section. So I've got a choice between orchestral woodwinds, saxophones, brass, percussion. And the reason I did this is because I was thinking that I would like to focus on composing for band. And so I figured it would be good for me to practice doing that. Okay, and as you can see, there's still the 2 lines for music down below, which gives me a chance to just kind of jot out quick ideas or whatever for the day. And that's super important. That's great. But then I realized, like, this to-do list was going to take me too long. It's just way too much stuff. All the intervals, all major scales, solfeged, all relative harmonic minor keys. Well, actually, this one is just for relative harmonic minor of, I guess maybe I was going to do the major solfege, then a relative harmonic minor, a relative melodic minor for each. I'm not sure. Um, maybe I was just going to do one solfege. Originally, this was the entire all major scales, and so I think what I probably landed on was one major solfege scale, and then the relative harmonic minor, then the relative melodic minor. So this is actually a later edition. This is not just the second version, because I remembered that I originally was going to do all major scales. Um, but it was just too much. So what I decided to do is to make a list of all the sort of daily goals that I had in chunks for the oral skill stuff. So I don't know if you can read this, but basically I have intervals, a specific major scale, there's a harmonic minor scale, or a harmonic minor scale, E melodic minor, G major blues, D minor blues. And then I've got these resolutions. It's some chords, resolving a dominant seventh in B minor to the tonic, so on and so forth. This was something that I used to do back in the day to kind of get me, like, keep me thinking about harmonic progressions and how they progress basically. Um, and so my thought was like I could print one of these out like once a month or something like that, and just kind of put the dates next to each chunk when I was able to complete that chunk, which is a good idea. And the way that I made this list was just by having ChatGPT like just list all the scales, and I gave it some rough estimate. Like I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So there's 14 chunks. Um, and, I think that allowed me to get it done, you know, get everything done like twice a month or something like that. I forget the exact requirements or specifications that I gave to the AI, but it was just trying to make a list that would be usable. Okay. And then I was like, well, I need to practice my music every day. So you see my daughter drew me a little picture. So sweet. She just comes in and just starts doodling on things. So I'm playing with her in Matilda, her musical, right? So my thought was, and again, I did this with ChatGPT. I was like, make sure that I hit at least every single piece at least one time per week. And I gave it the list of all of the Matilda pieces and all of the Brahms pieces. Red refers to book 1, orange to book 2 of the Brahms Liebeslieder waltzes. And the red edition actually has more pieces in it where the bass sings than the orange book does, which is why you're going to see a lot more of those. Okay, so that's like what I need to do in terms of practicing music every day. But then the other day I was just at a coffee shop with my wife and son, and I just printed out a basic blank version of my journal, right? And this one actually has a page number, as you can see. I added that in Dorico. And so I was just sitting at a coffee shop at a table, just like doodling, and I wrote out a motive. And then what I like to do when I write the inversion is I like to go below it and basically invert it by writing out the intervals. And so this one goes up a major 6, so this one needs to go down, and so forth. And what I discovered actually is that I messed up some of these because I'm really rusty. I haven't done this in a long time. But the 2 lines actually ended up being perfect because I was able to write an original motive at the top, underneath it write the inversion, but in this case it's up an octave just to kind of keep it all in a staff. Then I went over here and I wrote a retrograde, so I wrote this one backwards. And then I did a retrograde inversion. So I think I wrote out the intervals here, but what I basically just did is I retrograded this version here, if that makes sense. So I just reversed this inverted version. So it's perfect. I have a little grid, basically. I have, a little spot to do an original motive and then 3 variations on that motive. And then I had to ask ChatGPT, I was like, can I just ask you to remind me what are the different ways of varying motives that I'm not thinking about? The other ones I thought about were augmentation, where you expand the rhythms, or diminution, where you compress the rhythms, but basically keep the proportions the same. And then truncation, which is where you just cut things off, midway through the motive, or there's always adding notes, moving the motive up by interval and just kind of having it start at a different pitch class or whatever. There's all these different ways that I could think of, but those weren't the ones that I tend to think of as being sort of fun little puzzles to solve that give me musical material that's fairly different from the original, but it's still related in a very clear way. And ChatGPT came up with all these other ways that were basically variations on the others that I just mentioned. So those didn't actually seem to be that important, in my opinion, because I was like, I don't feel like I should sit and write every single one of those out at a coffee shop. I could, but those are things that I could probably do faster in Dorico that are more things that I would think are more contextual, like they make sense in certain contexts. And if I'm going for a specific emotion or vibe, those are the things that I should go for. Like I should, go for diminution if I want to make like an ostinato or something like that, or make like a baseline by augmenting the rhythms and so on and so forth. Like these are just things that I could do in Dorico if I'm going for a specific emotion. And then I have this harmonic stuff written out here to the other side, which I thought, well, I could write a chord progression, or I could write an instrumental range, which is something that I didn't mention here on this second version. I wrote a blank and I said sounding range. So the idea was write out the sounding range of like one of the saxophones, like so that I'm learning to remember what the sounding range of these instruments are, so I can remember like what are the capabilities, what are the concert pitch capabilities of these instruments, if that makes sense. So that's what I thought. Okay, this other stuff out here could be for that. Okay, and so I was at a coffee shop again, and again, I think I messed up some of these motives. I can't remember where I did it, but I got my inversion wrong. Like I went into Dorico and I was trying to figure out how to get Dorico to do these things, which it does very easily, and I realized like, oh shoot, I actually did this wrong. So I realized that I've realized that I'm very rusty, which is okay. So over here you can see I wrote out all the clefs. Now this is from a score reading book that I studied in grad school that has some really interesting, like it talks about the clef transposition tricks that you can implement to basically get the right pitch when you're trying to sight read something at the piano, and you want to get the correct concert pitch. And so I just wrote these out just to kind of remind myself what they were. And then I thought down here I would write my instrumental sounding range. Okay, so what does all this mean? What am I getting at here? Okay. When I write out a motive and 3 variations, that is, at its most distilled basic form, that is composing. That is the James Clear 2-minute rule. That is me sitting down and saying, I'm going to compose every single day. Done. Check. Now, this is obviously not like very much composing, but it is enough to make me feel like I'm doing something every day, which is a little bit of a psychological trick, but it's really cool. So my thought is that what this gives me, I didn't realize this at the time, but if you take these 2 things, these 2 sheets of paper that have like the goals for each day, for like, these are the pieces I want to make sure I practice to make sure that I get all of my pieces practiced on that day. And these are all of the intervals and scales and modes that I want to sing before there aren't any modes on here. I'm just realizing. I'm not sure where the modes are. Well, there's supposed to be some modes on here. But the point is, I didn't realize this at the time, but this is basically a perfect version of my to-do list from college. The to-do list I made in college was all about guilting myself into doing things. I would print out this impossibly long to-do list that was just really hard to get done, that had like, an entire page of crazy stuff to do. And I was single, I was in college, I didn't really, it didn't matter. I could get some of it done, some of it not. But I would stay up till like really ridiculous hours, sometimes getting some of this stuff done. The point is I can actually use this. Let's go back to the original. I can use this as a blank slate. I know basically what I can do on there every single day. But then what I can do is I can take from an existing list those items that are my goals for that day. And I can write them down if I get them done. Or I can just leave the ones here that I didn't get done, but still write down what I accomplished over here. So what I see when I look back on my accomplishments for the day is I see what I actually accomplished. I don't see what I didn't accomplish, which is the big difference, right? Psychologically, it's really, depressing to see a list of items that you didn't check off that day. Whereas if I have goals, like I'm like, this is what I want to get done, may or may not get all of it done, but at least I'm going to get some of it done. Then I feel like I have like something to shoot for, but maybe it's not like, it doesn't perfectly happen every single day. So I can, and then I have a date here at the top. So for those of you who like to do bullet journaling and you like to make sure that you catalog things, there's a page number for you. There is a dot grid where you can add like all of your notes. You can create indexes if you want to. You can basically catalog your favorite motives that you've done that day, or that you've done over the different weeks that you've done this. So it's a really, I don't know, I think it's a perfect system for me at least. And so anyway, I just wanted to show you all that and just see what this video looks like, because I think I might do more of them like this. So anyway, I'll catch you in the next one.